So it's pretty exciting today. I am on the way to get the keys for the handover for Frybrook House. Frybrook House is this amazing Georgian manor house built in the heart of Boyle in County Roscommon in Ireland in 1753 by Henry Fry. In the last 10 years it's been owned, well in the last 8 years or so, it's been owned by three amazing people who I've become friends with, and I've watched them do this house up because it was pretty run down, and they turned it into basically a guest house. And we started working with them at Live 5D Health last summer, doing our retreats with them. And then they messaged me on the 29th of October. Well, I got a missed call, and I immediately knew they were going to sell it. And I was like, okay, they're going to sell it. Wow. So we need to. So I went to have a chat with them, and they said, yeah, we're selling it because we've enjoyed doing it up, but we don't really want to run a guest house, and we want somebody to take it on who will help this place get to its full potential. And I said to Gary, my partner in Live 5D Health, I said, oh, we need to buy this house, but we haven't got the money. So this is the power of this podcast. I put out a message to my Substack subscribers, and basically we raised the money. And it's taken, where are we now? It's nearly July, nearly 8 months to complete this purchase. We've got big plans for this place, and I'm very excited to share them with you. Massive gratitude to everybody that invested in this project. I'm now stuck, just show where we are. I'm now stuck outside the cafe because there's no way in. And the cafe comes with the house, believe it or not. Well, I have a tiny present for you. Oh. Get closer, make sure it's on camera, because it's only a tiny thing, but it's the prototype of our first Frybrook House product.
Oh, how lovely!
This is the prototype, so this is a one-off.
Oh,
but it's a botanical facial serum with Frybrook House on it.
Oh, fabulous!
I'll send you the proper ones when they come out, but I thought you'd like that.
Oh, how nice!
Yeah.
Oh, is that lovely? No doubt it was done. That's lovely.
Let's see, Joe.
What a lovely,
Very good.
brilliant for
Yeah,
beautiful.
the actual one's much nicer, but this
that's
is the first one we did.
Wow! Lovely. And I love the colour blue. I love the blue bottles.
Yeah. And it's nice stuff. It's all Irish.
Beautiful.
Ultimately,
but look how good the logo looks on it. Frybrook all the way.
They're smashing. Yeah.
Ultimately,
Fantastic.
we're going to do it with stuff grown here.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, but you know.
Joining all the dots up.
Yeah, but it is Irish anyway.
Okay, well, shall we go in?
Yeah.
To Frybrook House?
Go in.
Doggies have to stay outside.
You're the key person, Joe.
Oh, I have the keys, yeah. I'm now formally handing over the keys.
Now, or
We'll do that. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
big moment. Drum roll.
handing over the keys from one custodian.
I expected them to be
Well, there's loads more in on the table, but that's
17th century.
essentials.
I think it's really important to say that, like, it's amazing that Joan and Ulrich and Belinda didn't see themselves as owners of this ever.
No.
It was always stewards, custodians,
Yep.
protecting a place that's very, very old for the greater good. And Mark and I feel exactly the same way. We don't own this place. This is to be opened up to the community. It's to like share values. It's to encourage people to get back to nature and actually understand what real value is. And we're really honoured that you guys were, receptive to us, thought about us first, and stuck with us through this whole process. So
Let me touch the keys.
thank you very, very
And we
much.
wish you the best of
Both
luck
of you.
in the
Thank
years
you.
to come.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joan.
No problem.
Thank you. Thanks, Ulrich. Thank you, Hug.
So let's have a hug now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, it always sounds so exciting. The second benefit.
Couldn't make it up.
No, you couldn't though.
So, and there's tons more. There's tons more
Doggies, come on,
inside.
find them. Beautiful, yeah, amazing.
Okay.
So let's do this. Yeah,
The
the
other
one is the front door.
So cool.
Oh, yeah, I get to open it.
Yeah. Go on, open.
Oh, I think you can just push it in, Gary. I didn't lock it.
I'll do this.
Perla, you have to stay out now. I love
I'll
these.
do it just so you can see that.
that.
It is open, but first thing.
Yeah, just push it in. I didn't lock it.
Okay, so
Cross the threshold.
over to Joda. Just on this. This is going to be.
Throw my bits here. Sorry. Okay. Perla. Sorry, I think I don't strip myself up here at the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to Frybrook House, new owners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is probably one of the oldest Georgian houses in County Roscommon. And when we talk about Frybrook House, we're going to talk about the history, but we're equally going to talk about the architecture, which is the Georgian architecture. So I suppose I should start in terms of, well, who built it? How did Frybrook come about? And the answer is the Fry family. Now, for some of you guys, maybe the Frys means something like the bar of chocolate. Well, it does. Because the Frys go back to the early 1600s. And they lived in Friesland in Holland. And then they decided to move to the UK. And hence the Frys set up the UK, a chocolate factory. And then we move on to our Frys here in Boyle. And we have to talk about Henry Fry the First. So he came here in 1743 to set up a weaving business. So there's a mill at the back of this beautiful house, not owned by these boys, but owned by a family in the town. So when Henry came, he came at the behest of another gentleman called Lord Lorton, your neighbour just up the road. And he gave him 6 acres of land to actually set up the mill and to set up the weaving business. And so off Henry went, and we know from the Sing census in the 1790s that they had at least 20 loomers, probably doing shirts for the armies, you know, producing beautiful quality linen. So life was good for Henry I, Henry Fry I, so he got married to a lovely lady called Mary Fuller, and they had 3 daughters and 1 son. And 10 years later, he decided to move to Frybrook, or to have Frybrook built. Now, we don't know who built Frybrook, but we do have an inkling that it has something got to do with Lord Lorton down the road, because Lord Lorton is Henry Fry I, godfather, godson connection. And Lord Lorton had all the connections in Roscommon, and a gentleman called Mr. Halpenny helped build his house. And he is the man that's now renowned for the measurements of Georgian architecture. So when we talk about Georgian architecture, if you just look around this beautiful hall, it's all about light, symmetry and uniformity. They're the 3 pillars that Georgian architecture is built upon. So we can reasonably assume that Mr. Halpenny certainly helped Henry Fry I.
Yeah.
So, leaving the history of the family alone at the moment, if we look at the ceiling here, we can see some beautiful craftsmanship. We can also see the most beautiful staircase, which is an original staircase. And we can just try and imagine those ladies that walked up and down, glided up and down the fabulous staircase. And we can look to the floor then, the tiles are original as well. And on the walls here, and we'll come back to this when we go to the back kitchen, is a beautiful poem written about Frybrook, and it tells the history in 4 verses, but I'll return to that a little later. So now I'd like to bring you into the dining room at Frybrook. So here we are today in an updated room, and this was presently used as a bed and breakfast room. But going back to Henry Fry, this is where the family dined and entertained. So it's very important to talk about the Frys in terms of entertainment. Henry Fry I was like your today's entrepreneur. He socialised with the best of nobility. And of course he would, because he's connected to Lord Lorcan as well. But he also used to call up to the garrison barracks just up the road there, and he would invite officers to dine at Frybrook House. Now you'll notice over here we've got some pictures of the hunt, and that's very important because the Frys, all of the Frys, and there was many of them, were great horsemen. And 40 horses would leave Frybrook every year for the hunt, and then they would subsequently entertain and dine after the hunt. So, switching over very quickly then back to our architecture, this is an Adam-esque fireplace. It's all original, beautiful, made of wood. So, and you'll notice the beautiful covings, the shutters, they're all original, very cleverly crafted, so you can have a half or quartered or just a slice of the light coming in. As I said, uniformity, symmetry and light. Okay, so I'm going to bring you up the stairs, let you glide up the stairs. So, getting back to Henry Fry I told you that he was married and he had 3 daughters and 1 son, but then his wife died and he married Catherine Mills very quickly after that, because a gentleman then couldn't be without a wife and to have more children and to manage the children. So he was blessed with another 4 sons and a daughter. So all in all, in the house we had 9 to 10 children, 2 parents obviously, and we had 2 servants. Now, 2 servants would seem like very minimum. We could walk up the stairs, but I'd say on days when the hunt was happening and all the dining was happening, they would get in extra help. So again, have a look at the beautiful Georgian architecture as we sweep up this beautiful stairway. And we're now going to come on to the Venetian floor, because we have a Venetian window, which is based on one of the beautiful windows in Italy. We're really not too sure how Frybrook was designed from an interior point of view. Okay, we can see the beautiful architecture, but in terms of how it looked on the walls, or perhaps there was a chandelier hanging from the roof, so we've kind of given a nod to the chandelier. And the other thing, I suppose, in a way, in terms of Frybrook is, it was built, over 250 years ago. How do the people get around then? So we had to show reverence to Bianconi, who was our first man who developed the public transport system, which was via the horse carriages. And one of the great things he did was he set up the carriages to come from the Shelbourne in Dublin down to Sligo, or up to Sligo, I should say. But they would stop off here in Boyle, to change horses and for the drivers to have a rest and all of that. And then they would proceed on their way, having been refreshed, on the way to Sligo to take on the curlews. So that's very important. So these maps here, these are very old maps as well, which highlight the route that the horses would have taken. And unusually enough, 4 horses carrying people in the carriages, Dublin to Boyle, would take approximately 13 hours, which in some ways is quite efficient. But we know en route they would have had to change the horses, obviously, to keep them full of energy and refreshed. Okay, so I'm going to take you in now to the room where the Fry family would have relaxed, with their closest and their dearest. And so here you can really see the beautiful architecture, the Georgian architecture, the detail on the shutters, the shafts of wheat that we can see here, the beautiful coving, and again, the light and the symmetry. Now, the only thing that's a bit different about this room is the fireplace. This is a Victorian fireplace. It's not anything like what would have been there. There would have been an original Adams fireplace in Frybrook. And we've evidence of where it would have stood. It would have stood this high, again, to be in line with the size of the room. And we have it on good authority that Adam's fireplace is with the Guinness family today. So it went from one good noble house to another. Now, as I said to you, Henry Fry, you could talk about the Frys till kingdom come, because they had lots of children, and a lot of Henry Fry's sons, were involved in the army, and they were clergymen. But there's two of the Frys that stand out in particular that I think we need to mention, and one is Major Oliver Fry. He was the third son of Henry Fry I, and he went into the army. He first studied in Trinity. Don't know what he studied, but he never got to finish his degree because there was all sorts of skirmishes happening down in County Roscommon, and particularly around the 1798 Rising. So he came down to defend Frybrook and to defend Lord Lorcan's palace up the road. And with that, he got a commission from Lord Lorcan into the military at a high level. So he left Frybrook and went away for 25 years to be part of the army. But he then wrote his own diary, and it's from that diary that we have got a lot of the information that I'm talking about. And I will read you a little passage. And I don't have the book with me, it's downstairs, but I can read it a little later, in terms of when he came back to Frybrook 25 years later and how it was. So that's one of the Frys. The other Fry is, and I'll just point to this picture, is a Thomas Fry. And Thomas Fry would have been Henry Fry's brother. And he was a fantastic portrait artist. Now he never came here, he never lived here. He was born in the UK. But he went away, and one of the particular things that he did was he went to China and he observed how the Chinese did and made their porcelain. And then he helped set up a bow factory just outside London and employed hundreds of people. And that's the entrepreneurship of the Frys. It's a bit like the mill. There's 21 looms going at a particular time. So it would have been full of creativity and activity and business. So yeah, he never came to Frybrook, but well worth mentioning. As I said, I think it was Major Oliver Fry had something like 18 children. Half of them died because during the 1700s and 1800s, child mortality was at its worst. With no penicillin, no health safety regulations, so hence, there was a need to keep producing children to ensure that you'd have a son to carry on, what you owned. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to see the ocular window or? Yeah. Yeah, we go to the next floor. But before I do that, I'll just bring you into one of the bedrooms. Yeah. So this is again another beautiful room, and whilst we don't have any information on where anybody slept, we've a good idea that the parents slept in this, because this is one of the best rooms in the house, and because there was 10 children, it should be seen and not heard, they'd be up in the next level. So again, all I can say about this room is just the beauty of it and the architecture. Simple coving, and I suppose that's worth mentioning, that some people think that the house should be even a bit more nicer than it is, but Henry Fry was a merchant. He came from seafaring merchant background, some middle ranking, as opposed to Lord Lorcan, who was the 4th Baron of Kingston, but he had that, as I said, that great connection, so he was able to move around in those circles. Now Henry Fry I as well was a magistrate in Boyle for over 40 years, and he also set up some agricultural banking systems, so he was the real deal, for sure, and brought great life and hospitality to the house. Now I should say, I did talk about the Frys that made the chocolate. They were Quakers. These, Henry Fry I and his family were also, whilst not written as Quakers, they were Quaker principled. The reason we know this, it's threefold. As you come in the gates of Frybrook, the pillars left and right have a beautiful design on the pillars. And they are hospitality stones, which meant you know, the house was open for visitors. You were welcome. The second thing is, as you walk up the drive, you just at the very beginning of it on the left, we've evidence of a beautiful big bakehouse of commercial size, which indicated that they baked bread for the town, or indeed the town could come and have whatever combination could be fired in, and you'd go away with your soda bread or whatever else. And then thirdly, we've evidence on the roof of Frybrook where a big large bell was placed, and every day at 5 o'clock the bell was rung to invite anybody around the town to have dinner. And if downstairs, where I showed you where the family ate, if that was full, they would put up a tent. And then fourthly, in a way, and I'll talk about it a little later when we go to the back kitchen, the famine, we'll talk about that a little later. So they were very much Quaker principled. We also know they had a very big garden, grew all their own vegetables, and opened the gates and sold their products to the town, and would have had a melon yard as well. Okay, so I'm going to just show you a quick view of the beautiful ocular window, back to the architecture. So we're coming up to the next floor, the second floor here, and we call it the ocular floor because we have a beautiful, beautiful piece of architecture in terms of the window. It's called the ocular window, but it's also called the œil de bœuf, which means the eye of the beef.
Is it?
Yeah. So it's beautiful. On a very nice spring day or early summer day, when the sun shines at the right angle, this beautiful, beautiful shape makes its way onto the grey wall, or indeed onto the carpet. So over here we have a picture of Frybrook 1900. So if you take a look at that, you can see not an awful lot has changed in terms of the house. Obviously the trees have grown a lot more along the driveway, etc. But the structure of the house, I mean, they built it to last 230 years later. Okay, I'm going to bring you down to the back of the house now, where the servants would have lived. And we'll finish up in the kitchen to see what the back kitchen, the heart of the house. Okay. So here we are at the back of the house, and if you kind of take a look again at the architecture, while it's extremely simple and plain, it's got beautiful angles to it. And so up in this room here to my right is where the two little servants would have lived. Now they would have been extremely happy to have worked in a big house like this and to be guaranteed a bed and you know, a coziness to be in, and perhaps paid, I don't know, a shilling or two anyway. So that's their room. We won't go into that. It's very simple, it's very plain. And just in here, this is the main room. This was their working place. The kitchen. What can we say about this kitchen? This kitchen is a typical example of an 18th century kitchen. And the two servants would have done all their cooking here. So up here is a small place where they could bake their breads. Now, we talked about the big one at the beginning of the driveway, but obviously during certain periods when the family wanted something fresh, they would obviously use that. Here we've got a Franklin stove. Now this wasn't part of the house, it wasn't here when purchased, but we've done our research, and the Franklin stove is very much on point in terms of the period of the house. It's about 1740. Mm-hmm. And it's Mr. Franklin from the USA that designed that, purely in terms of safety for children, because during the mid 1700s, when they were just wearing their little linen dresses and nightgowns, lots of them were burnt where they stood too close to the fire and the draft pulled them in. So he developed that. Now, I talked about the Frys being Quakers, and the fourth positive thing about them was the cauldron here. I know you can't see it very well, but we've a huge cauldron here. And it was used for two purposes. One, it's the first ever example of a modern washing machine. So bear the thought, the two servants are coming down with 10 clothes belong to 10, kids, and then the adults and the servants themselves, all the clothes were put in here, and they would throw in the water. Fire would go on here, and it'll bubble away, and then bash it around a bit, I presume, and hand wring it out, and then let the water out through here. There used to be a tap there. But more importantly is the second use of this. This was a famine cauldron, 1845, the Great Famine in Ireland. So again, tying into the Quakerism of the family, they were growing their vegetables. They could do that. They'd have the seeds to keep on growing. So they put together soups, and soup would have been handed out to the people of Roscommon. Because remember, the famine hit Roscommon, I think it was one of the worst counties in Ireland. There was thousands of people died during that period. So I would like to conclude the tour actually with a poem written by a lady that used to live in Frybrook Lodge, which was just across the road here from us. And the reason I'd like to read it is, she interviewed the last of the Frys, and his name is Dickie Fry, and he left here in about 1985, 86, 87, and she got to interview him. So listen to the words of the poem, listen to what I've said to you, and see what you think of the poem. I think it's rather lovely. They left their ships at home and steered instead a sea of multicoloured thread through looms where designs danced each day to weavers' tunes. Skilled hands stretched and played with the wool to build with bricks and cloth a house of dreams. Within the high-wall garden plot at dusk, a rooftop bell called all of them to dine, and polished tables laid with silver smiles. Ring-fingered raised the claret cup, while century rooks in sycamore crowns looked on. The house is worn, its edges frayed with time, disguising smiles of boys and girls who play at hide and seek amongst the tattered trees. The beat of hooves still echoed through the fields, and foxes doze, sensing the chase is done. Chimneys peep between the trees and rest, while ovens, tired from baking bread, sleep on. They dream of ships and sails and weaving thread, to waves of rushing water, listening to broken footsteps fading through closed gates. Now that poem depicts the history in 4 stanzas, where Frybrook's gates were closed for a long time, and then they were opened in 2018, where we could say the house was saved and brought up to where it is today. And now we're looking at the new custodians, so maybe they might be inclined to write a new stanza to that poem. So, will we leave it at that?
Amazing. Thank you, Joan.
Absolutely brilliant.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
So,
Brilliant.